Alright, I think we are currently good to go. Let me take a look at my audio settings here. And then we will go ahead and jump over to the jam stream layout and get started. All right. I think everything is good to go. I've got the loop configured. I just realized that I'm using a track that has my bruh button gone, so I won't have that for the moment. But if I need it, I can always swap over to the one of the older tracks that has it there. So to kick things off for today, like the stream title mentions, we're going to be jumping back into some basics and practice drills. It's usually the way I kick things off for these jam streams. Going through some beatbox practice drills and also doing sort of a status check on some of the developing sounds that I'm working on. I think I'll probably devote about maybe half an hour or so for just the practice drills and basic stuff. And unlike some of the other streams where we kind of split the focus on practice or routine pattern development and the BGM brainstorming, I think today I'm going to devote a bit more time to the loopstation practice and BGM brainstorming. And that's because of something I mentioned on Twitter a few days ago now, I think it was. I am currently working on a pack of BGM tracks to be released before the end of this month for Halloween. And if you want some more details about what it looks like, you can check out my post on Twitter from, I think it was last night. But the pack itself is called Revenance Beats, and it's going to include a bunch of kind of ambient and spooky sounding tracks, which is something I haven't done before, and the stuff that we've come up with on stream. And right now I've got 3 tracks that are done. 2 of them have been recorded, the third one is ready to go, and I'll probably preview this one a little bit later once we actually get to the jam stream section where we're doing BGM brainstorming. But because these jam stream sessions are also a good way to get ideas from other people that come through the stream, I'd like to open up the brainstorming session for ideas of potential tracks to add to the Revenance Beats pack. Originally thought it was only going to be 2 or 3 tracks, but basically I'm willing to include anything that sounds decent enough. So there's no real limit on tracks. There's just more resources for people to potentially use, which is always good. So the actual focus on the stream, the BGM section of the stream, is going to be more ideas for some good spoopy tracks to be included in that upcoming pack. So, without wasting too much time, we can go ahead and get started with some basic face warm-up drills. Simple incorporations of kicks, snares, and hats, like we usually do. And from there, I'll probably touch on a little bit, just some discussion about the developing sounds and do kind of a status check. There isn't anything super dramatic or specific I wanted to focus on as far as the sound development goes, but we can talk a little bit about that when we get there. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll do some basic warm-up stuff to get the blood flowing. I did not plan my day super well and woke up less than an hour before the stream again. So we'll go ahead and get started, go in cold and warm up a bit. while we're getting warmed up, I'm going through the the basic stuff. I'm also keeping an eye on the audio readout. The mic levels and sound balance should be about where it normally is. I'm touching right up against the yellow threshold in OBS, which is about where it normally is when I talk, and I'm trying to avoid getting in the red on some of the harder snares, which usually happens if I point directly at the mic. So I got it off to the side. So when I hit my PF snares, like the let's see it. It's hard for me. Actually, I'm going to put this over here. If I have OBS on my other screen and I look at it, that points me at the mic, which doesn't really help. So if I put it on my main, now I can actually see. So it shouldn't be hitting red with PFs. Yeah, I think that's about right. As long as I don't turn my head to the side and accidentally point directly in the mic, it should be okay. All right, continuing with the warm up. My throat warmed up, get some bass going. All right. Let me update the stream caption real quick. I'm just gonna change it to straight practice. I think that's good for the warm up. I'll call it practice. And I need to remember to change this to the BGM stuff when we get there later. But for the status check on sounds, what I like to do on these jam streams, in between just doing the drills and all the practice stuff, is to sort of do a check on where the developing sounds in the arsenal are compared to the last time you did a jam stream. Oh, hey, Edward. Welcome to the stream, the jam stream for today. Hopefully you're having a good afternoon, evening, or morning. We're just getting started, getting through some warm-up, and I want to spend some time talking a little bit about the developing sounds and doing some practice stuff. And one thing I mentioned when we kicked off the stream today is I'm going to be devoting a bit more time than usual to doing some BGM brainstorming, and that's to get some ideas together for the upcoming Halloween BGM pack that I'm working on. And I think it'll be fun to kind of focus on some more spoopy type sounds, which we haven't really done on these jam streams yet. So we'll be doing that in a little bit here, but I did want to spend some time just doing some sound check and practice updates. So let's see. Of the sounds I'm actively working on, I'm working on inward bass still. It's not ready. That'll probably require some sort of special announcement when I actually show that off. I feel like it's good enough to do. Um, Everything else has been sort of in a holding pattern. I haven't really made much progress on post snares. I have been working on a lot of technicality drills for the TKKs and getting speed and consistency down. It's getting closer to the point where I can almost spam TKKs, which is closer to what I want, but still not quite there yet. So if we take a few trips back to some earlier streams when I was breaking down technicality theory and how that works, the TKK is just the so T outward K sound and then rim shot, which is the and the triplet pattern for the basic TKKs that everyone learns at some point is the and as you practice it and get better and more clean with it, you're able to do it faster. You can do it back to back and chain your TKK sounds into long strings. And once you get really good at that, you start mixing in other technicality sounds into the pattern itself, and you get a lot of really complex and at times high speed patterns that you can fit into beatboxing routines, which is pretty handy. So for me, the TKK is still not as fast as I would want it because, again, I've only been really drilling it for the last several months. It wasn't the first set of technicality patterns I learned. But one of the things that I've been trying to get better at as part of the practice, we know the is the basic starter TKK technicality sound pattern. But as a way to mix up the way the sound chains, I've been practicing a slight variation on the triplet pattern that takes the TKK and then makes an FTK. FTK, yeah, I think that would be, so it would, instead of just going and doing the same three, it alternates another one. So the first one goes and the second one goes. It's a little bit tricky because technically it's supposed to replace the sound in my muscle memory. Kind of defaults to making it an extra one, so a 4 pattern instead of a 3. But if you chain them together, it's supposed to sound like. But again, muscle memory causes me to make it a 4 pattern, so instead it sounds like. And I've been really trying to train that out, and it's been difficult. But if you do the whole thing back to back, it sounds like you're mixing the sounds up in between the chains. And if you do it real quick, it sounds kind of neat. So that's what I'm developing and trying to get clean. It's not quite there yet, but the way I do it at mid speed kind of sounds like. Again, not clean. I've been working on it some more. The tricky part is getting the F sound to hit right and then move into the rest of the sounds because it's a different mouth position. But I'll get it sooner or later, and then I'll be able to talk a little bit more about the clean pattern once it's done. But I've noticed people tend to create technicality strings with snares kind of punctuating the patterns as well. So they might do something like a PF and then the TKK pattern, and then something else, and then they'll punctuate each break in the actual pattern with the snare itself. What that would essentially sound like would be something like a. That's with both a kick and a PF snare. But that's also a little bit more advanced to practice just because it's causing your mouth to jump through a bunch of different positions, and you have to be able to snap back real quickly and get everything done cleanly before it breaks the pattern. Oh, hey, what's up, Wazzy? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're having a good Saturday. I was telling the stream earlier that my plan to get a bunch of stuff done in the morning today was thoroughly foiled by me sleeping through my alarm, so I ended up waking up about an hour before the stream and had to scramble around and get everything set up in time. Clearly I need to set louder alarms. But that's fine. Fortunately, I'll need to do a whole lot to get ready for a jam stream, but I do have to set all of my streaming equipment up and reset my entire workspace in order to do any sort of streams. You'd think I would do it the night before, just in case I oversleep, but I'm usually up so late working on stuff that I don't do that. But let's see. Going back to technicality practice, I think there's really too much to cover there. I just wanted to give a quick update for that developing TKK pattern. It's getting there. It's getting closer. I think in maybe another couple months, it'll be clean enough that I can integrate it into the other things that I already know how to do. But what we can do is go back to some just basic patterns and drills, mix of regular sounds plus basses, and then I'll sort of round out the short practice session that I had planned for today. I do want to get into the BGM brainstorming. Again, today'll be a slightly more time devoted to that than usual, just because I want to get some ideas together and hopefully get some stuff together for the Halloween pack. So we'll finish up the practice session with some different things. Oh, also, you guys have probably been seeing on YouTube here and on Twitter, but I've been continuing the Daily Beats project for the month of October. That's been pretty fun. I believe I've got enough footage recorded to finish out the rest of the month. I just have to go and edit them and render them into individual videos. That's a fun project. I have enjoyed working on that for this month, so that's something maybe I'll do in the future. Just having frequent content that sort of evolves is kind of an interesting experiment. So hopefully it's been interesting to see the silly random stuff that I keep posting every day. Let's see. I'm going to run through some freestyle stuff to wrap up the practice portion of today's jam stream, and then that should get us good to go for the BGM part. As usual, let me know if you guys hear anything weird with the audio. I think everything is set fine. I just need to be careful which way I'm pointing at my mic. So let's see. I need to see about incorporating some of those lip roll sounds into the BGM loops. I know when we come up with ideas for BGM tracks, a lot of the real common instruments I tend to incorporate are obviously kicks, hats, snares, some different kind of sung basses or using guitar to bass through the loop itself. But I don't think any of the BGM tracks we've come up with, or even on Stream Sounds, have ever used either the dry lip roll, or the inward lip roll, the more heavy punch sounding one, like the regular, or the really low kind of sub bass lip roll, or the. And it never really occurred to me why I don't do that. It's a little bit tougher of sound to control when it comes to the loop itself, but it can slot in like in any other ones. So maybe that's something we can look at in the future. I was thinking the other day, just doing like a more electronic kick lip roll rhythm could be fun to use as a skeleton for an actual beat. Something like a. The tricky thing with that is it's difficult to vary pitch in the dry lip roll. You could do it higher and lower if you tighten up, but it doesn't dramatically change. And it's kind of similar with the inward one. But I think if we could play around with different commands on the loop station itself, which could make that useful. So I need to make a note to not forget to experiment around with including that particular sound in the mix for the loop station. Let's see. I think to segue into the BGM brainstorming, I want to show off one of the Halloween pack tracks that I haven't recorded yet, but it's here on the loop station. So let me change the status here. All right, we got BGM brainstorming. And this would be a good chance to make sure my playback levels on the loop station are good enough that you guys can hear what's going on and also hear me talking if I need to explain stuff. So let's see. I haven't quite mapped out the song structure for this one, but I could sort of do a rough demo here so you guys can at least hear what I've got put together. This one is called Last Gasp, and I gotta remember where I put all my tracks too. Let's see, I think the main beat is here. What I'm going to do is run through a real rough demo of the song structure for this one as kind of a preview for what's going to be included in the Halloween pack. And then we'll get into the actual brainstorming. All right, let's see. Instrument levels shouldn't be peaking. I think it's about where it needs to be here. Wazzy said that here's something weird with the audio. Okay, what are you hearing? A nerd is talking at me? Oh, okay. Haha. Very funny. Edward says, "Get absolutely nay-nayed. Good beat though." Oh yeah, thanks. Again, I haven't quite figured out the progression of where I want the structure to go. What I showed you guys is a pretty rough idea of how I want different sections to start up and stop. I do think having a fade out with the more ambient kind of spooky parts and ending with the breathing is hence the title Last Gasp. But doing these tracks for the month of October has been fun because it's a very different vibe and different style from the stuff that I've done up till now, which tends to be a bit more kind of higher energy or hip hop oriented stuff like that. So getting a chance to kind of experiment with the ambient type sounds is has been fun, and I'd like to work with this stuff some more. But let's go ahead and drop this into another track and clear everything off and start coming up with some ideas for the next one. And this is also a good chance to experiment with some loop station effects and instruments we haven't really used up to this point. That's another good part of the experiment, working with different sounds, different kind of sound effects, and learning what else there is here, because I've barely scratched the surface of what this instrument's capable of doing. Again, I'm a massive noob baby when it comes to the loop station, but I want to learn more about what this thing can do. All right, so let's save settings onto a new track, and we'll break everything down from the beginning. Okay. Clear this. And like I mentioned before, for the recording sessions and stuff we're doing here, I'm going to be working with all 5 tracks to give myself some more options. So there's no bruh button for now. But it is still here, just not on these particular tracks that I'm working with today. Okay, so for this next one, we're going to need to set a tempo and figure out how slow or fast, probably not fast when it comes to song tempo for these spoopy tracks. And I've set that up for the previous ones kind of the same way we usually do, with a basic rhythm or some sort of combination of sound effects that's going to establish kind of the cadence and rhythm of the song. So the real first point here would be, what would be a good backbone of tempo for this one? I got to kind of think back to the ones I've recorded so far. They tend to be all slower, kind of in a similar tempo to the one you just heard. But they all have a kind of different focus for what establishes the rhythm. So we could go for, let's see. I was thinking like a wind, like a really dry wind blowing sound effect that's going to be in the background. But let's see. Another neat effect that I guess I can show you guys here. We'll figure out if we can find a way to use it. I've employed this on one of the other tracks that I've recorded for the Halloween pack, but the chorus instrument feature on the input effects is really interesting, because it's not something we've looked at before. So I can kind of demo it here. If I turn it on and speak normally, what it does is it basically creates a chorus overlay on top of whatever sound is input. It's probably difficult to hear what I'm saying if I have it on, but you can use that to create like a harmonized effect when you're putting in sung inputs. So if you want to do something like a ghost voice with the chorus, it's actually pretty easy. You just turn it on, and if you just do sung notes, it'll be something like woo, and it replicates that very easily, which is pretty handy. I did use that on one of the tracks. And one thing I haven't tried, which I guess we could see here, is what that sounds like if you do a hummed note and you pair it with the guitar to bass. So it's going to get a low end bass resonance in addition to that kind of echoey chorus overlay on top. I don't think I've done that at all yet, so let's try it. And then just see what it sounds like and see if we can work it into an actual sound. All right, guitar to bass is on here. Maybe leave it about here. With chorus, I'm gonna make this louder. About here. You guys won't be able to understand what I'm saying if I have both those effects on. But I'm gonna try and record a couple note bass line using both these effects and play it back so I can hear what it sounds like. It is really difficult to hear any note progression because of how heavy those effects are. It does sound terrible though. Let me get my mic settings back. It sounds like a car engine. I don't necessarily think that that combination to be super useful on a track. But it is good to know that's what it does if you combine both the low end and the chorus effect. All right, we can get rid of that. We still need to establish a rhythm and sort of tempo for the track itself. So I think I need to placeholder something while we start constructing the rest of the beat around it. And I was thinking using kind of like a ticking. I've done something like this before, but maybe something with a reverb effect. Edward says, what if you drum with those effects? So doing something like actual percussion sounds using the guitar to bass and the chorus filters. That's not something I've tried either. Let's see what that sounds like. And I'll do a real basic rhythm and we'll play it back and see how it filters the effects on there. It's a good idea. All right, I'll turn both on. And you guys probably won't be able to understand me again. So let's see. Bass, about 40%. Here's chorus turned up a decent amount. All right, let me turn these off. So the basic effect, I don't know if you guys can hear that because it's a little bit softer. But doing percussion sounds using both those effects creates a really muffled sound. It's not bad, but it's a little bit difficult and muddy to hear. I think it would sound better with a little bit of delay or reverb on it too. I just don't know if I can fit that effect on. Yeah, I can't add it with the input effects themselves. I'd have to add it at the track level, and it'd affect everything else that's recorded. It's not that. We could do something functional with that though. If I change the balance of the filter effects to maybe make it a little bit less distorted, and we do a real slow beat, it might create kind of like a lo-fi filter equivalent where it's playing the rhythm through what sounds like a distortion filter, but it's still audible. So let me see if I can get a good balance that's going to get the instruments a little bit cleaner, and then try and establish a tempo for the actual song itself. I think I want to do something a little bit slower than the rhythm that I just tested there. So let me turn the effects back on and see if I can get it to come in a little more clean, and then we'll see if that's going to set up the tempo and background for the track, because I think it's usable. It's just a little bit hard to hear with the levels that I set, which was like 40% on bass and 100% on chorus. So I might be able to scale them down. We'll see. So let me turn them back on. All right. That is about 40% on bass, 50% on chorus. You guys probably can't understand me. Okay. That's with about 40% bass and 50% chorus filter. That I think is a bit more functional as far as a usable beat goes. I think we can keep that there for now. But now I want to experiment around with some other additional sounds to layer on top of the rhythm or around it. They'll be on separate tracks just so it doesn't screw with what we've made so far. I was thinking kind of like a, what instrument would that be? Is it like a not a shaker, but that kind of rattling sound, like a in the background, kind of like again the wind with no effects on it. Except for maybe, let's try reverb or delay and see, because I want it to kind of echo. I'm gonna drop the beat down a little bit. We turn reverb up. Maybe about there. I'm gonna try delay first. It's about there. Let me see if I can add a layer of hi-hats on top of that sort of rustling noise. Our original idea was to potentially have like a ticking sound, but maybe we can move that into another track idea. Real slight kind of tapping or ticking in the background on top of the rustling track, which should yield an interesting effect if we reverse it using just the reverse effect. Not too dramatic if we do that, but it is interesting. Now, the next question would be for a bass line. What I've done for some of the spooky BGM tracks so far has been a lot of sustained bass lines that usually have a 1 to 4 note progression, need to go up, down, or a combination of both. So I think we want to mix it up for the bass line on this one. The real question is, do we want something that's going to be kind of more of a rhythmic bass, or would it be kind of more of like a start and stop? That's going to be a bit of an experiment, I think. And I can also play around with some of the effects on the bass itself. I was kind of thinking lo-fi filter on top of guitar to bass to give it kind of a more fuzzy sound compared to the regular clean like string bass noise that I usually go with on these. Let me see if I can combine those and we'll see what it sounds like. Then we'll see what we can play around with for the actual bass line. We've got 3 tracks left. 2 of them are occupied by what you hear right now. Let's see what that yields if we combine guitar to bass with the lo-fi filter. Here's guitar to bass. Lo-fi. About 55-60%. If I turn it down, the filter kind of drops out. You can't hear it. This is again about 60. I think if I turn the lo-fi filter up more than about 50%, then it gets that really sharp buzzing noise. And I might be able to play around with the presets on the actual effect. In fact, I'm going to do that and we'll see how it alters it before I mess with the actual input percentage. Alright, guitar to bass on, lo-fi on, bit depth. Or what you heard there was me changing the level of the bit depth, whatever that means. I think it causes it to get a bit more distorted, kind of like you have like an 8-bit interference noise in there, which is actually kind of cool. But I had to turn it off so you guys can even hear what I'm saying. But what if we did a high to low bass line, something that went like, and then, but instead of it just being a clean bass noise, it has that distortion, so it kind of sounds like something's fading out as it's going from high to low. Maybe we could start even higher, go like, and then have that obviously sync up with the rhythm. So it's basically a descending bass line going high to low, but it's got that heavy kind of distortion on it, kind of like a TV signals being cut out. Let's see how that works. I'm gonna turn both effects on. You guys won't be able to hear me anymore. Bass. Alright, let me get back to the mic. I had to move away. Oh, let me turn dynamics on so you can hear me. I had to move away from the mic a bit in order for it to not get really, really loud and distorted. But I think that's actually not a bad bass effect. It's very distorted, but you can still hear the note progression. Edward says, William Afton type beat. I do not know William Afton. Does he do kind of like ambient or kind of dark sounding beats? Let's take these 3 tracks here and then run it through some of the track effects and see how it sort of affects this really basic 3-part beat here. Because I'm kind of curious about, specifically repeat. Oh, Edward says he's the guy who kills kids in the Five Nights at Freddy's games. Ah, I gotcha. Yeah, it's definitely more of a kind of oppressive, more kind of creeping sound, which is definitely theme appropriate for the stuff that we're doing this month. This is messing with beat repeat, turning it on and off. And then basically turning it on to get the upper part to repeat, and then kicking it off in order to get the drop, which is kind of a neat way to play with the rhythm of the bass line instead of just being the same 2-note progression. This is with delay on, applying delay to the whole track. You're getting most clearly audible on rhythm, obviously, versus the bass line. Edward says, are the hi-hats playing forward on which effect? With the repeat, they're not playing forward. It's just cycling a section and playing them in repeat. I haven't turned scatter on or shift. Shift would move the rhythm forward. So what you're hearing on the stuff so far is just a repeat. And this is with slicer on everything. It's not cycling between a section of the rhythms or a song. It's just chopping it. It's about 50% with the slicer effect. And it's basically cutting it. Doing it like a rhythmic cut, which actually sounds pretty cool. I like that. If we turn slicer effect up to 100% with the knob, it doesn't change the rhythm, but it makes them a lot more forcefully cut. Versus at 50%, it basically sounds like a delay. But when you turn it all the way up, it sounds like it's forcibly being cut off. And I think I would go 100% if we were doing a rhythm switch up on this one. Edward says you reversed them at some point, but I don't really hear it. I reversed the bass line. I haven't tried reverse on the rhythm. I could try that now so you can hear what it sounds like. One way you can tell that the reverse effect's been applied, it sounds like a record, like a record flick. Because what it's doing is it's basically doing that effect to the whole track. So this is just on the rhythm, nothing else. Note the kind of aggressive flick that sounds like it's flipping the whole thing, and it's putting the thing down, it's flipping and reversing it. That's what it sounds like here. And I wonder if we add slicer on top of that, I wonder how it switches up. Okay, you lose the rhythm pretty much altogether when it's reversed. Yeah, if we were going to do a switch up to slicer, we wouldn't want to have the beat on reverse. We could have if we switch to slicer for maybe a bridge or interlude in the middle of the song, we could have everything else drop out except the bass line, so you're getting like a signal that's going to be slicing. So if we did that, it would sound like this. And we could even have the beat and effects come back in a little bit later. That's what filter on. Just I threw it on the middle effect since we didn't have anything there. That's phaser. It's a little bit more subtle compared to filter. We can actually add lo-fi at the track level on top of the lo-fi effect that's on the instrument track, and if you do that, it becomes even more muffled, which is kind of interesting. It gets kind of a weird distortion that kind of punches in the background. I don't know if I like that because it sounds like something is basically feedbacking into your headphones. This is flanger. It's not an effect I use super often, but it creates kind of like an oscillation type effect. and something that's rhythmically being cut with the slicer effect, it actually doesn't sound too bad. I don't think I'd want that on there though. I kind of like the idea of isolating the bass line when it's chopped like this. Alright, let me save our work. So far, I like what we've come up with here. It's a really interesting kind of feel for a track that's different from the other ones I've done so far. So let's look at this kind of like a rough draft. This is just 3 tracks, so we do have more options to add things in here if we want. But if we, let's see. This one, I think it would make sense to start off one of the percussion tracks. We have maybe the ticking come in first, and then we bring in the really muffled, distorted percussion line. Then we have the bass line come in, the kind of dominant sound in the mix. One thing I haven't messed around with is pan. And pan is neat because it changes where the sounds are oriented in kind of directionally around you. So if we add a pan effect to the whole series of tracks, with pan all the way up, if you're wearing headphones and you're listening to this, it should sound like the sound is alternating directions around you, like kind of moving all the way around and jumping between sides. It's a really neat effect, and it'd be kind of disorienting if you make it part of an instrumental track too. Because I can hear it in my headphones. It sounds like the sound is alternating sides, like the noise is coming from all around me, which is kind of a neat effect. I'll turn that off. We could combine it with Slicer though. Basically, it sounds like every time the bass line is cut and comes back in, it's in a different part of your headphones. Auditorially, it sounds again like it's on the right one point, then it comes back in, then it's on the left, then it's behind, then it's in front. Edward says it's only in the middle. I wonder if that has to do with how it's playing back through your device. Because again, I have my headphones plugged in directly in the loop, and I can hear the sound switching sides in the playback. It could be if it's outputting through the broadcast in stereo, you can't hear it moving around. But let me turn it off. Now it's just playing in the middle, so it should be unaltered when you hear it in playback now. But like when I push it right here, I can hear it change in the playback. So it might be how the broadcast from YouTube is playing back in your headphones, so you're not hearing it jump. I'll have to experiment around with that. I'd be curious to see if I mix this into an actual song file track, and then you guys download it or play it through whatever proprietary music players, if you're able to hear it. Because if I record it that way, then it should have a variance in sound direction. Take the slicer off. I think progression wise we would have the beat and the bass line cut up, everything go through several measures of the slicer, and it comes back in, goes back to normal, and then for the outro of the song itself, I'm thinking just having the chopped bass line come back, and that plays the track out. Maybe turn on pan from the last measure. and then that would be the end of the track. Yeah, I think that's pretty functional. The real question is there anything else we want to add? Because again, I've only used 3 of the 5 total loop tracks here. I don't know that it really needs anything else from an instrument perspective. I think if we add anything else, it might start to make the track a little too cluttered. I was thinking about adding like a ghost track on there, but it'll sound similar to one of the other ones I've already done if I did that. Even though it's tempting to just put like ghost whales on every spoopy track for the collection, but I think that'd get a little bit repetitive. Yeah, I wanted to test reverse again on just the bass line track. It gets kind of hiccupy. I don't like the way that sounds. If it didn't have that kind of, it's because of the vinyl flick in the reverse. If it didn't have that, I think it'd be a little bit better. But yeah, I think we can keep this on the way it is. The real question is, what do we want to call it? I've given all of the tracks so far, and they're not really pun type names for the Halloween collection. They tend to be a bit more just thematically appropriate based on what the kind of feel of the song is, which I do want to do for this particular collection. But to me, if we play everything again, to me it sounds like someone is chasing you. And kind of to Edward's point about the kind of the kind of oppressive nature of the song, I was kind of thinking something like "Always Behind You" for the track title, something that gives you kind of that creeping sense of impending dread, which was definitely what the song kind of feels like to me. Again, it's kind of aggressive, but it's not high energy. It's more of like there's someone following you. They're not getting too close and they're not getting too far away, but they're always behind you. So that might be a good title for this one. And I kind of like the idea of when you get to the switch up with the chopped bass line, where it's going like, because it's suddenly truncating and making the bass line a bit more rapid. It's like the person who's following you is starting to pick up the pace a little bit, and they're kind of walking a little bit faster. Again, they're not too close and they're not too far. And then you turn around to look at who's following you, and all of a sudden they slow down and they get further away. If you really wanted to get silly with it, you could use beat repeat and then suddenly make it like an electronic song. That wouldn't really be kind of appropriate for the overall vibe we're going for here, though. Yeah, I think I'm gonna placeholder the title for that one to be "Always Behind You," and we'll see if I change my mind or if anybody else comes up with a suggestion for what to call this thing. I'm surprised that I figured it would have taken longer to sort of come together with ideas for something. But that one sort of organically just took shape relatively quickly. And then maybe I will have for the sort of chopped bass line add in pan. That way we can test to see in playback and recording if you guys are able to hear it. And I'll be able to tell when I play it back on my system too. All right, let's save this. Let's write this to another track. As of right now, I have officially recorded on more than half of the tracks on my loop station. There are 99 in total, and we are on track 54. The first, I'd say 20 or so are all old, kind of garbage experiments. So I can definitely clear those off and make room when I need to. But we've slowly been accumulating a decent pile of BGM tracks, which has been a super fun experiment. I'm glad we're able to kind of make this a collaborative session. Okay, all right. We're on number 54. I'm going to clear all this off and give us a blank slate. I do want to go back to that idea of like a ticking clock, having like a tick tock rhythm, not like the platform TikTok, like the ticking of a clock as a rhythm in the background. And I think we could probably do that with just the dynamics and EQ, sound settings, and a reverb or delay. Probably delay is better. Reverb will make it echo, but a delay will make it sound like it's resonating a bit more. So let me see if I can get that on here. All right. This is about 50%. We use, or we could use panning delay. Here's panning delay. What this does is it creates the same delay effect, but then it moves the sound around the listener. Again, you guys might not be able to hear it if the broadcast is only broadcasting it out in stereo, but that's fine. If we apply that to like a ticking noise, and I can just use clicks for this, just like almost like a metronome, but adding the panning delay, let's see how that changes it. Maybe a bit too high. Let me see if I can record that and then see if it gives us a good bass line for the rhythm. All right, it's not too aggressive as far as the sound goes. If I boost the volume up, then it's going to be right in your ear. So I'm going to keep it down here a little bit. Now let's see if we can find a good rhythm to pair with this sort of ticking clock theme. We could do, I've used the CH snare. I think I used it on one of the earlier ones. It might not be good to use it again here. But we could go for a muffled K snare too. So like a real question being maybe something like a we have to get to line up though. Let's see if I can do it here. Missed the first hat. We could even add a heartbeat sound to the snare in the background and layer that. We could do that with guitar to bass. But if I screw it up, I'll ruin the whole track, so let's see. Actually, I think I want to add it to the kick. So then it's offset with the muffled snare instead. Let's try that. What I'm doing is I'm listening to see if the first rhythm is offset and out of tempo with the ticking. I think it's close enough. It doesn't sound off. It might be like a millisecond off. It's hard to tell because there's a delay and echo on the ticking. Okay, I think we'll leave it there. Now, let's see, what else can we combine with the ticking and then the bass rhythm? It's going to sound like it supplements the overall kind of feel of the song. This one, unlike the other one, is a bit more... It doesn't quite sound as aggressive, but it's a bit more ominous. I wonder if we can get granular delay and give it kind of like a metallic, using that clinking sound that we've done a couple times using either clicks or a rim shot. I wonder if we can get it to sort of have like a kind of mechanical buzzing, like rhythmic buzzing that's going to kind of fill in like a bass line. Let me see. I've got to reconfigure a bunch of things here, so you guys might not be able to hear me when I turn effects on. All right. This is granular delay. All right, what I did there was I took the original distorted bass line, which was the granular delay plus ring modulator, and then I recorded it, and then I went back and added in a guitar to bass underneath it. So if we listen to it, the bass line itself has both. It's like a dual layered distorted bass. Let me save this so far. This one changes a little bit with the bass line. It kind of picks up the pace and energy level a bit, so now it sounds a bit more plodding. Like it's kind of plodding along at like a decent pace, which isn't bad. I don't think it has quite the kind of ominous feel as the one we were just working on. So let's see what else we can add. I think the percussion line is going to need to be up a little bit higher than normal because of the muffled snare. You can play around with some track effects and see what kind of options we have. Yeah, I'm not going to go slicer on this one. It'll sound too much like the last one we were working on. This is beat shift. It's actually hard to tell if that even changes it too much. It's about scatter. Scatter patterns, I'm just running through the different type patterns here. I think it's a bit too chaotic. Edward says maybe add a rim shot or some kind of high sound. Yeah, I'm thinking I kind of wanted to have the muffled snare for the percussion line, but it is kind of hard to hear. If I mess with the balance a little bit, you can kind of hear it over the other sounds. But a rim shot or a high sound, if we added in a rim shot like a the real question is, would it make sense to sync the rim shot up to the snare or add it in between somewhere else? We could do a delayed rim shot. That'll sound a bit different. That would sound like this. I can try and record that because we have 2 extra tracks here that have nothing on them. So I could try and slot that in and we'll see if it changes things. I think that's too many rim shots. I think like one in between the overall rhythm might be a little less distracting. Edward says, I was thinking a longer type thing. Oh, like not necessarily a hi-hat roll, but just a longer hat noise drawn out, like a Is that what you're talking about? Might be able to do it without the delay. Let me get rid of the rim shot track here. It wasn't quite on rhythm, but what happened if we did a delay? Well, that's definitely going to be a lot more noteworthy sounding. Let me see if I can do it on rhythm this time. I think it's pretty close. I may have to re-record it, but the hat is in line with the rhythm. The real question is, if we were to take that sound and maybe punch it up in the mix a little bit, make it louder. Yeah, I think it's looping just like a half second out of sync. But let's see, how does that sound? I'm just letting it run through a couple times on the playback just to kind of get a feel for what it sounds like. Doesn't sound bad. We have to put it a little bit more in the background so that the hat isn't kind of dominating the overall mix. Let me see if I can re-record that and get it a little bit more in rhythm. See if that sounds better. That one's closer. Yeah, this is with the sound drop down a little bit lower, or about on par with the others, but lower in the mix. What I'm messing around here is something I haven't really used on any of our tracks so far. It's the vinyl flick, which kind of functions like a record scratch, but it actually it'll slow the whole track down to a stop. It's a little bit hard to use. It's not quite like a turntable record scratch, but it's a similar effect. That was transposed. I was trying to see if I could get the entire track to sort of step to a different key cleanly. I obviously didn't do it right. I need to learn how to use that command a little bit better. It's powerful, but you have to be kind of specific in how you use it. Let me try something. I'm gonna try and turn off the track effects on everything except the bass line. That's track 3. Let's see if I can get actually the transpose to work with just the bass line. That's actually closer to what I was trying to do. I'll have to think about whether or not I want to work in some sort of transpose effects on this one. That might be a little bit too complicated for what we're doing here. That's what ring modulator applied to the entire set of tracks. There we go. It was only applying to the bass line. I'm just messing around with the track effects B just to see what else we have in the list. That's lo-fi. It's lo-fi applied to everything. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but one of my neighbors has a really loud muffler on their car. So every time they turn the car on and drive away, it sounds like there's a car race in front of my window. Yeah, OBS readout showing picks up, so that's fun. This is with lo-fi applied to everything at about 40%. Edward says, I don't think I heard the car engine over the sound of the robot takeover. Yeah, if I turned all the tracks off, he would have probably been able to hear it in the background. I just need to be careful not to be recording anything on the loop when they're doing that, because then it'll be part of the recording. Now, one thing we could do, again, I'd have to compare this to the last one that has some distortion on the bass line. We could throw on the lo-fi filter for just a section of the bass line to get it kind of like a stinger type sound, and then we turn it off. I want to try something for the last track. I thought about this earlier and I didn't actually do it. I'm gonna see if I can put a clicking sound with the granular delay. You think it distracts too much from the ticking clock sound if I have that kind of metallic noise in the background? I wanted it to sound like there was a kind of metallic echoing that's coming in directly behind the ticking noise. But if I turn it up too loud, then it definitely overpowers it. I don't think I want the ticking to be too high up in the mix. It's all you're going to hear otherwise. I'm going to have to play around with the track balance for this one. There's a lot of potentially competing noises. I don't want it to get too muddy. And save. I think this one, I don't think there's a whole lot else to really add or switch up on this one. This one's a bit more straightforward in sound than the last one, I think. Let's do a quick comparison. Let me jump back to track 53. This is always behind you. I think these are distinct enough. This one's a bit more busy. It's got more sounds sort of in the background and kind of layered around it. I'll have to experiment with the overall track progression and whether or not I end up keeping that lo-fi distortion in there. But before we sort of wrap up, let's figure out what we're going to call this last one. I was thinking of something with time, since the dominant theme here is the ticking of the clock. Maybe we do out of time. If we adjust the tempo, this won't be part of the final mix, but I'm kind of curious what happens if we speed this thing up. This is at 117. That's at 150. It's a bit more rapid, but a lot of the other instrument tracks I think get muddied just because it's kicking the speed up too high. Put that back down to 117. That's reverb. Maybe I'll do the lo-fi filter on the outro section. We'll see. It's either going to be that or mixed up somewhere in the middle. But for title-wise, I'm thinking about going with Out of Time for this particular track. What do you guys think? So what we can do while we're figuring that out is do a rough cut of how I want the track to progress, and then I may edit this later. I think for the themes on this one, we have to start with the ticking, right? So maybe have the sort of ticking and the other accompanying things go for a few measures, and then bring in the rest of the beat before we kick in with the bass. Maybe do a full stop, cut everything out, and then come back in with everything. I had to be careful not to erase the whole list of tracks when I did that. Maybe we have one section of repeat with the bass with the lo-fi distortion just for one section, and then bring everything back in, and then not have the distortion come in till the end. This one I don't think is gonna play around too much with the rhythms and the different tracks. I want this one to be a little more straightforward, but just have a couple specific distortion effects in there. So let's assume we're going towards the outro. Maybe have it go into the distortion for two measures or so, then cut out, and then we finish the outro with just one repeat of the ticking, kind of the way it started. I think that could be a pretty functional structure for this particular one. Just running through the rough draft again now that we have the kind of ideas in place. Bring everything back. One more repeat. And then that's the outro. I will leave that kind of tentative for now, and then if I want to play around with anything else in recording, then maybe I'll do so. But I think that will do it for the jam stream today. I've got to run out in a few minutes here. Otherwise, I'd probably could try and go for another hour. But between the two tracks we came up with, again, those came together surprisingly easier than I thought they would. I figured we'd have to do a lot more experimenting and kind of tweaking of sounds and design in order to get something that felt kind of appropriately spooky. Or spoopy, rather. But I think those two will fit into the overall series of tracks for the Revenant's Beats collection that will be coming out. I guess what I could do, I could show you guys one more. I'll give you a preview of one of the other tracks. This is not one we've done on stream. It's one I was working on offline. Kind of like the last Gasp one I showed you earlier. Let me figure out which one it is first. 50? No, this is the one we did on stream. This one's also part of the collection too. Hold on. 51? I need to start titling these so I can refer back to them easier. Oh yeah, this is it. Okay, I'm going to run through the rough draft of this one real quick just to give you guys a preview of another track from the Revenant's Beats collection. This one's called Haunt You. wherever everything is first. Bruh. Oh, there's the bruh button. There you go. That's might not be a one-for-one recreation of what I recorded, since this track's already been recorded and it's done. But that was a real rough recreation of that particular track off of the upcoming Revenant's Beats collection. So, might to do between now and probably the next week or so. I want to have this thing out and available on places like Bandcamp and whatnot if people want to download them. Probably before the last week of October. I may see if I come up with any other ideas for tracks that I want to add to the collection, but this should put us up to 5 with the 2 we did today. Originally, I was planning on doing 2 or 3, and then I kept coming up with random ideas. So rather than push them off into something else, I'd rather just keep adding to the collection, and whatever comes out, comes out. But yeah, I'll put an announcement out on Twitter once I have everything posted on Bandcamp. And I'll do the same thing I did for the first BGM collection. I'll do a video that compiles all the beats from this particular track list. And it'll be up on the YouTube channel. That way people can preview the things that are in the pack as well. But that'll be coming soon. I'll be finishing that this week, and you guys will see it when it goes up. But that being said, I think we are going to wrap up today's jam stream. Once again, thanks to all the folks that stopped by and hung out while we kicked around different ideas for Spoopy tracks. I don't know, we might not have time to focus on this again for the next jam stream. It may be towards the end of the month. We'll probably go back to practicing some of the stuff we've been doing up till now. But we'll see. I'm still planning out the stream schedule for next week anyway, but we'll see what materializes. So, once again, thanks to you guys for hanging out today. I will catch you in the next stream. Have a good afternoon/evening or morning. Catch you later.